Welcome, everyone. Thank you for attending this evening's mayoral debate. What a terrific turnout we have here today. So, I'll begin the evening with a land acknowledgement. We are gathered here today in Mi'kma'ki, the traditional and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. The territory is covered by the treaties of peace and friendship, which the Mi'kmaq and Maliseet peoples first signed with the British Crown in 1725. It's an especially important time to acknowledge, the importance of our treaties, especially as we celebrate Mi'kmaq History Month this month. And as many of us will recall, it was only a few days ago that the town and county and Buckankeg Nation all came together to unveil our new town sign. It's important to acknowledge the Mi'kma'ki name for Antigonish, Neligich Guni Ich, the place where the branches are torn off. And it's in the spirit of this collaborative effort tonight that we work towards reconciliation, and I want us to think about that when it comes to thinking about our community engagement and coming together. So, on that note, I will introduce myself. My name is Rebecca Wallace. I am a Mila Mulroney Research Chair in the Mulroney Institute here at StFX. I'm also a member of the Department of Political Science, and I specialize in Canadian politics, which is why I will be moderating this evening's event. We're really thrilled to partner with the StFX Students' Union on this event. We've really appreciated the students reaching out and wanting to engage on municipal politics. We think that this is a terrific opportunity. And I'll invite actually Dr. Linda Harling-Stocker to come up here to start our evening with an introduction from the Institute.
Thank you, Rebecca. Welcome, friends, neighbors, colleagues, and students. It's so wonderful to see so many of you here this evening. The Brian Mulroney Institute of Government is very pleased to be co-organizing this event with the Student Union. This mayoral debate provides a platform where our local candidates have the opportunity to display the best of politics, where dignity, decency, and decorum prevail. At times, these qualities seem to be in short supply. But we know these are values that are not only central to the Mulroney Institute's work, but are what StFX and our community aspire to embody. We are thrilled that the Student Union asked to be co-sponsors of this event. Part of the mission of the Mulroney Institute is to give students the knowledge, skills, and tools to be engaged citizens and future leaders. Providing opportunities where they can see civil discourse, thoughtful deliberation, and democracy at work can help them forge a path where we may not agree with each other, but we can respect each other. Before I leave the podium, I want to thank Dr. Zana Zhushli and Rebecca Wallace for taking the helm on this project, Brendan Roberts for representing the Student Union, to our returns officer for ensuring everyone eligible to vote has the opportunity to register, and to those who have sent in questions, to you, the audience, and of course to our candidates. It's not easy to stand up here in front of hundreds of your neighbors and friends. So I'm looking forward to this insightful debate, and as a parting remark, especially to the students, please get out there and vote. Thank you.
Awesome. And to provide some remarks on the Student Union's perspective here tonight, I'd like to call upon Brendan Roberts, the chair of the Board of Directors for the StFX Student Union.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Wallace, for the introduction. Like Dr. Wallace said, my name is Brendan Roberts. I'm in my 5th year of Public Policy and Governance here at the Brian Mulroney Institute of Government, and I am the chair of the Board of Directors for the StFX Students Union this year. I want to thank everyone, students, friends of StFX, neighbors, for coming to our first and only Town of Antigonish Mayoral Debate. We're really pleased to co-sponsor this event with the Brian Mulroney Institute of Government. And I'll keep these remarks really brief just so that we can kind of get started, and the reason that we're all here. The StFX Student Union, as I mentioned, is really thrilled to be a partner on this event. Getting out the vote is something that the Student Union always wants to take an initiative on, whether that's municipal, provincial, or federally. It's always something really important to us, and we're really strong believers in the democratic process. So even though sometimes students might not be eligible to vote in certain elections, whether they're out of province, out of country, or out of the municipality that we're in, we still ask that students engage in the process, because knowing who your representatives are and who is overseeing the public services that are being offered to you is really important, and it's something that we always want to encourage our students to take part on, or take part in rather. All of our Get Out the Vote campaigns are run out of our External Affairs Department, so that's run by our Vice President of External Affairs, who unfortunately couldn't be here tonight, Islam Ahmed, and also Cheyenne Denny, who is the co-chair of our External Affairs Committee. Cheyenne is right here. We want to thank Cheyenne just for helping out run this event. Quick round of applause. Yeah, so as I mentioned, really proud of this event and the work that went into it. I won't take up too much more of your time. And as Dr. Lynn Harling-Stalker mentioned, please, to everyone, get out and vote. Thank you so much.
Awesome. All right, thank you, Brendan. I would now like to call upon our returning officer, Alan Armsworthy, who's going to talk with us a bit about voter eligibility, registration, and getting out to vote before we get into the proceedings.
Good evening. I'm going to stick by the book because I'm required to stick by the book. So I'm going to go over some of the qualifications to vote, and some of it's a little ambiguous, so you're going to be required to interpret some of it for yourselves. Anyway, I'm going to start with qualifications to vote. I have in the hall tonight with me my associate, Melanie Fouchier, who's the town revising officer. And after you're finished here tonight, anybody who wants to go outside and register can go see Melanie, and we'll see what we can do about getting you on the list. Under the Municipal Elections Act, a person entitled to be registered on the list of electors and to vote in a municipal election must be 18 years of older, 18 years, and a Canadian citizen on the first advance polling day. Our first day is going to be the 12th. Have been an ordinary resident in the province for a period of 6 months immediately preceding the first advance poll. So that's 6 months prior to October 12th. Takes us back to April. Persons not qualified to vote. Number one, the returning officer. That's me, I don't get a vote. Number two, inmates in a correctional facility. So people in correctional facility don't get a vote. And three, people convicted of bribery under the Municipal Elections Act. Nova Scotia does not have a non-resident voting, so that means that we have lots of taxpayers who own property in the area, but that does not entitle them to the vote. They have to live here. Now, we have to talk about the meaning of ordinarily resident. The Act provides that a place where a person is ordinarily resident is where a person lives and where the person intends to return when away. So basically their home. Number two, or where a person usually lives and sleeps, and to which, when away, that person intends to return, regardless of where the person has their meals or is employed. Number three, where a person is living temporarily at a place, and if the person has no other place, the person considers that as their place of residence. Number four, where a person is provided with food, lodging, or other social services by a shelter, a hostel, or similar institution the person would be ordinary resident in that shelter, hostel, or other institution. It also says here, in instances where the rules are not sufficient to determine the place where a person is ordinary resident, then the appropriate election officer, after considering all the facts, determines ordinary residency. So that means myself or one of my returning officers can determine if you meet the necessary requirements. We're not going to do that because we're all adults here and we know whether we meet the requirements or not. You are going to choose if you meet the requirements. I'm not going to tell you, you're going to choose. And then you're going to take an oath that says that you meet the requirements. And you're taking responsibility for your own oath, and you're taking responsibility for whatever follows that. So if there's no problem, there's no problem. If there's a complaint comes in after the election, all complaints will be followed up on. And if there's an issue there, your oath will be noted in the book, and investigation will follow. So you're taking responsibility for your own actions. A person is not ordinary resident in a seasonal dwelling, generally only occupied May to October, unless the person has no other dwelling. So you're not resident of a cottage unless you have no place else to live. A person can only be ordinarily resident at one place at one time. Now I'm going to read the section on the students. A student is ordinarily resident either where the person's family home is located or where the person is attending school, but not both. In establishing residency, election officials may require students to demonstrate where they live. So most people, when they show up at the polls, we need them to show us some identification. We usually need them to show us ID of some type, hopefully with a photo, and date of birth. Students, we will be asking for the same thing, but we will also be asking everyone if they're a Canadian citizen and if they're 18 years of age, and if they live in the area. So we will have to establish that they live in the area if they wish to vote. Election officials may require students to demonstrate where they live, so we may ask you for a lease or some other form of identification. Students must meet voting qualifications in order to vote. It is likely that most first-year Nova Scotia students will meet the residency requirement in order to vote either where they attend school or where their family home is, but not both. Somebody from Sydney, if a student is here from Sydney and he wants to vote here, he or she can be added to the voting list, but they will have to call home and be taken off the list in Sydney. Or they can decide they're going to vote in Sydney. They have the choice. An elector must be resident in Nova Scotia for 6 months immediately preceding the first advance polling day. We already stated that. The resident must also be ordinary resident in the municipality, which is Antigonish. We will have some students in the town of Antigonish, and we'll also have students in the county of Antigonish. So they're either in the town, which is one poll riding, or in the county, and there's a choice of ridings there. Students, once the residency requirements have been met, may be required to work elsewhere for the summer and return in the fall to continue their studies. In such cases, if they determine their home to be where they continue to attend school, Antigonish, and are qualified to vote, they could choose to vote here. So it will be up to you, either Antigonish or home. If they feel they live where their family home is, regardless of where they attend school, they have the option to vote where their family home is located, but they can only vote once, and they can only be on one list. Clear as mud. Any questions that I can't answer? So basically, if you're a student that is eligible to vote, you will have the choice of Antigonish or where your parents' home is. And if you show up to vote in Antigonish, you can speak to Melanie outside and request to go on the list. She'll be asking for ID, and if you don't have the ID, she'll give you information. You can email it to her, and you will most likely have to take the oath in order to vote, but you can vote. Okay, we'll be outside after for questions.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Armsworthy. That is fantastic. And as I said, you're all encouraged to connect with him and Melody, to make sure that you are on the voter registration and that you know exactly what to do in order to get out and vote. So they are located just outside of our exit on the first floor. So as you're leaving, please take some time to go and visit them. All right, so let's get into some of our housekeeping business. Before we introduce the candidates and get into the debate, I do want to explain a bit about the format for this evening's event and a bit of our intentions behind this. So, when we were planning this debate, our primary goal was to showcase two mayoral candidates' platforms across a wide array of issues. We fielded questions in advance, so there will be no audience Q&A tonight. Those of you who submitted questions, thank you. We received a ton, and it was actually very difficult to whittle that list down. But we've chosen what we think is a good representative sample across a wide array of topics that affect the local level. So the format is that each candidate will have 5 minutes to introduce themselves. Following our introductions, we will run through a series of 8 questions, and each candidate will have 3 minutes to respond to that question. Our intention with this is to, again, keep a good pace and to hopefully cover a wide breadth of issues. And again, these were issues that students and community members were keen to hear about. Following the 8 questions, we'll then offer each candidate 5 minutes for their closing remarks, and we'll wrap up at that point. The goal here is for this to not be an adversarial event. We again are trying, as Dr. Stalker had mentioned, to really make sure that this is a collegial event and one that brings out the best of our politics. Again, we're here to share in the platforms and to share perspectives as diverse candidates. And although we know that social media has been getting quite divisive on this issue, our hope is that we can use this as a platform for civil discourse tonight. So, on that note, we also want to set a good example for all of our students here. And for many of these students, this will be their first time voting in an election. So we want to make sure that we showcase the best of what, elections have to offer, and that is being part of the democratic process, and that being fair and respectful process itself. So, we do have some expectations for you as audience members. In keeping with the notion of respect, it's important to us tonight that you are respectful of both candidates. What they are doing is not easy. As Linda had mentioned, it's not easy to get up here and to answer questions in front of your neighbors and your community. And putting your name out there on this role is very difficult. So please make sure that you give them your attention and your respect. As noted, we will have no public Q&A, so your expectation is to sit and observe. We do also reserve the right to remove anyone who attempts to heckle or interject in anyone's response. Please don't make us do that. It is very uncomfortable. So we are also going to refrain from clapping. I know this sounds awkward, but we are going to do that in the, for the sake of keeping pace and keeping time on everything. So I will invite you to provide a wonderful, hearty round of applause at the end of our closing remarks. But until that point, I ask you to sit and to take a good listen and see how things go. All right, now similarly for our candidates, we also expect that you will be respectful of one another. So our rules for engagement here, as we said, are keeping with time. Make sure that you are following. Brendan is our time guide here. He has his signs, which will indicate when you have 1 minute left and when your time is up. When you see the time is up sign, Please wrap up your sentence, and we will leave it at that. And do not interject in any way in one another's commentary. Again, we will not have a period for rebuttal. You will each have 3 minutes to answer the questions as you see fit, and we will go back and forth between who starts their responses. So, as we said, civil discourse is the motto for our night, and that is our game plan here. Let's hope for the best. All right, now with that out of the way, let's get into some of the fun of the actual process. It is my great honor to introduce our 2 candidates for Mayor of Antigonish, beginning with alphabetically, Sean Cameron. So Sean Cameron is a lifelong resident of the town of Antigonish. He is a 3rd-generation StFX grad, along with his 6 brothers and sisters who are also StFX grads. Sean is employed by the province of Nova Scotia and is presently an inspector with the Department of Community Services. Sean is married to Emmy, and their 2 adult children are both graduates of StFX. Sean was first elected in 2000 for a seat on the town council and left in 2016. He was re-elected in 2020 and has now stepped up to run for the mayor's seat. And Emily Chasson is a community leader with vision and charisma. She is a member of the StFX class of 2002 and a manager of annual giving and alumni engagement in our advancement department here at StFX. A natural relationship builder with a genuine interest in people, Emily is focused on building others up. Her Caring for Community campaign focuses on communication, connection, collaboration, community, creativity, and celebration. So, please join me in giving a round of applause for our 2 candidates. All right, and I will now call upon Sean Cameron to deliver his opening remarks. Sorry? You've got the mic there. Oh. I have to. Oh, sorry. Did I? Oh, okay. Let's go alphabetical, because that's what I've got on this list. So, awesome.
All right. Good evening, and welcome to tonight's debate. I would like to thank the Mulroney Institute of Government and the StFX Students' Union for hosting this event. Let me start by introducing myself, but I think Dr. Wallace did a wonderful job with that. As a lifelong resident, I am married to my supportive wife, Emmy, and we will be celebrating our 37th wedding anniversary shortly. We have 2 adult children, Keith and Brian, and have enlarged our family with another member, Megan. Hopefully this family will grow soon as we anxiously await the birth of our grandchild. My ties to StFX extend back to its founders, Bishop Cameron. I'm a 3rd-generation ex-alumnus, with my grandfather and father having attended. I am proud to hold both a Bachelor of Arts and a Bachelor of Science degree from X. 7 of my 8 siblings also attended X. The other one chose to pursue an RN from St. Martha's Regional Hospital, but we learned to forgive her for that. But in all seriousness, we respect and support all nurses. My 2 children and my daughter-in-law are both ex-graduates, along with aunts, uncles, cousins, too numerous to mention. Our roots are firmly established here. This connection between StFX and the town is a symbiotic relationship. We both depend on each other, and we thrive with each other. The influx of nearly 5,000 bright and energetic students each year injects life into our community. Our residents offer mentoring and supporting, like housing and employment for many students, and in return, you support our economy and enrich our community. Why do I want to become mayor? I want to leave this town in a better place than what it presently is. It is a great small town and will possibly be the first town in Canada with net zero energy due to our focus on green energy. Our 10-turbine windmill farm and soon-to-be operational solar gardens, combined with our partnership with Potentia Power, will make this happen. We must make this town viable for the next generation so that all can have a safe place to live, work, play, and raise a family. The town's main role is to provide the basic infrastructure: water, sewer, streets, and sidewalks. Our town is old, and some of these systems need support and upgrades. Much attention has been paid to our aging sewer plant. It is over 50 years old and has been struggling lately. The town has committed $5 million towards improvements that should help. These funds have been in the works for a couple of years now. Our water source is having difficulty in keeping up with the increased demand for more. Streets need a new maintenance system where we pave, not patch. We must make our sidewalks more accessible for all, especially those with mobility issues, to ensure that our citizens can live an active lifestyle. Without this main infrastructure, we cannot provide additional housing or support our commercial sector. Our town could falter. Our councils, both town and county, must work collaboratively to ensure that we are all ready for the next growth in our population. Items such as the Sugarloaf Affordable Housing Project with 100 energy-efficient 1, 2, and 3-bedroom units may be placed in jeopardy if we cannot provide these basic core services. That is why I want to become mayor, to ensure that these core systems are in place to support developments like this valuable project. My 31-year career with the Department of Community Services has opened my eyes and my heart to the struggles of some of our vulnerable citizens. I feel that I made an impact on their lives by helping them navigate government systems, connecting them to outside agencies, and sometimes just listening and being there as a support person. This has been very rewarding, and I'm grateful to have had the opportunity to provide that. These are my core values: to help people achieve a better future for themselves and their families. These values will help me in the role of mayor over the next 4 years, if the electors see fit. To help me guide our town council, where most councillors will be newly elected and inexperienced. My 20 years of experience, from 2000 to 2016, then getting re-elected in 2020, will provide the necessary leadership to help both councils achieve great things in a collaborative, open, clear, and accountable way. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Sean. I'll turn it over to Emily.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for coming here tonight. It's really nice to see this. It actually makes it easier to have a bigger crowd in some weird way. I'm really excited at the interest in this election. The diversity and the number of people running has created a lot of excitement for the community, I think. If Mayor Boucher is here, she is, I saw her. Thank you for your service, and I believe had your last council meeting last night. And I don't know if any of the outgoing councillors are here, but thank you. And I know that I see at least Leon, Travis, Pat, Drake, Diane, Colleen, Juanita. They're all running for, Andrew, they're all running for Kara, gosh, they're all running for council. Who's up there? Oh, Sarah, there we go. So we've got almost everybody who's running here. That's awesome. So welcome to them too. And how cool is it that we're in this Mulroney Institute? My cousin Joe was home here this summer from Victoria, and he hadn't been here since before COVID. And he just kept walking all around town, all around campus, and he just couldn't believe how beautiful everything was. And he couldn't believe this building is right here in Antigonish. And he said, I bet you there's a lot of local people who have never been in this building before. So I bet you for some of you tonight, it's your first time being here. So it's an amazing building. And thank you to Rebecca and Anna and the Students' Union for organizing this very polished event for us. And of course, thank you to Sean for his service, and of course for putting his name in to run for mayor. So I grew up in Antigonish, and StFX played a big role in my life from the time I was a kid, doing swimming lessons, dance, basketball games, football games, camps. And then eventually I went to StFX in 1998, and I graduated in 2002 with my BBA. And at homecoming this year, that just took place last weekend, I was thinking how, you know, they say Disney is the happiest place on earth, but homecoming might have been a happy second. People were so happy to be here because this is such an integral part of their lives, and it is for me too. So, and it made me think about when I was a student. I don't even really know how I was a student because I bartended, I sat on Senate, I was the co-chair of the Business Society, I worked at Shoppers Drug Mart, I worked at CJFX, I was probably one of the most social students on campus too, and I somehow or another graduated with some good marks. So After graduating, I moved to Toronto with my X-ring on my hand and a whole lot of inner chutzpah. Stayed there for a few years, migrated back to Halifax, and in 2020, I found Antigonish home. I live on Hawthorne Street now. I work here on campus. Up until just a week ago, I worked at the Cody Institute as a senior fund development executive, and I'm now in the advancement department as the manager of alumni engagement and annual giving. In 2020, I was awarded the Young Alumnus of the Year for StFX by the Alumni Association. So the student population in Antigonish is nearly equal to the population of the town. When I lived in Halifax, I was also surrounded by students, and now that I'm back in Antigonish, where my house is at the bottom of Hawthorne, I am again surrounded by student vibrancy, and I love it. The majority of students that I know are intelligent, they're cool, they're dynamic, they're funny, they're full of fun, energy, and you guys are way more aware of social and political issues than I ever remembered being at your age. My dog loves the pats that she gets from all of you, but she would like to say, quit the fireworks, quit the fireworks. So StFX and the student population contributes greatly to our town. There's over 900 people who are employed here. Students coach and tutor our kids. They work at stores, spend money in local stores. They live in rental properties owned by local people. And over 1,000 StFX students volunteer in our community every year. That's just a few of the ways that they contribute to our local town. Historically, there has been a divide between the town students and university, and I know that now through university leadership and the current mayor and council, that things are a lot better. They're working together. I had a meeting with the RCMP local staff sergeant, and she said that our student population here is impressive. They have very few issues in comparison to other places. So I think that is really cool because students often get painted with a brush that everybody is a certain way. I want to continue this good work and build community between town residents, students, and StFX. I put my name on the ballot to be mayor because I don't want forward-thinking momentum to be lost. We need new positive energy. We need new fresh perspectives and leadership that promotes learning from each other. We need strong relationships with the county, local government, and federal government. My friend Mayor Savage, who's retiring as a long-term mayor, said, we will always have issues with roads, sidewalks, water, and sewage, but where we really make a change is when you have vision for new projects, new partnerships, and new programs. I'll cut off now.
Thank you. All right, excellent. So thank you for your opening remarks. We'll turn now to our first question, which is, if elected, how will your past experiences and leadership skills inform how you will lead as mayor? And we'll begin with Emily.
Oh, this is a good one. So I have not been on council before. I've not been a mayor before. I don't have 20 years experience, but I do have the skills to do this job. So in my work and volunteer roles that I have done over the years, specifically the one job that I will tell you about where I really was able to develop the same set of skill sets. If you look up what a good mayor does, they're good communicators, they're good relationship builders, they're idea makers, they're fair, they're involved in community, they see people, they listen, they're empathetic. So in my job with Ovarian Cancer Canada, it was a really multifaceted role that I had as the regional director there. I dealt with layers of government. I did provincial lobbying, federal lobbying in that job. I volunteered, I managed hundreds of volunteers. I worked with the healthcare system, with doctors, and with universities, with municipal government in trying to educate people on ovarian cancer. I organized really big events, 500 plus events. I came up with new ideas, a Lady Ball event that I created, which was all about celebrating women, one event of the year in Atlantic Canada. And most importantly, in my work, what I do is I bring people together. I respect people. I have strong relationships with most anybody that I've ever worked with, volunteered with. And so those are the skills that you need to be mayor. I don't think it matters that you have been on council or not. You have to have vision. You have to help build other people up and inspire them to do things that they want to do, that they have ideas for our community. Because ultimately, it's not about me, it's about us. It's about our community and how we all interact with each other and celebrate each other. I think that's a big thing that we need here is positive energy, that we're not bringing each other down, we're bringing each other up. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you, and we'll turn it over to Sean.
Thank you very much. The position of mayor serves a dual purpose, both as a manager and a leader. I aim to do both by fostering creativity and encouraging new ideas, while prioritizing efficiencies and streamlining our operations. While managers focus on coordination and organization, leaders inspire and motivate their teams. By understanding these distinctions, I will be better equipped to navigate the complementary roles of leadership and management within our council. Some of the things that I've worked on when we talk about experience in 20 years, the creation of the new People's Place Library. We were instrumental in that. We brought it to the people's attention. We engaged the public. We took in a professional architect who designed the concept, and what we have today is an award-winning library on Main Street. Really, really good work. One of the ideas that I proposed in 2016 when I ran against Mayor Boucher and lost was a heat pump program using for the town electric utilities, getting people off fossil fuels and onto our green electric system. I am very proud to say that the work of the council before and the council I'm on now, that they have, we will be achieving almost 100% net zero when the proposed Potentia project comes online. Some of the things we must do as a leader, we have to identify the need to work in collaboration with the county for the proposed joint water and sewer utility within the fringe. So what I propose to do is see if the town and county can form a water commission. What that would do, utilities are not for profit, so a water commission will eliminate the need for metering chambers to slow down water and would really help with the fire protection with people on the fringe. These are some of the projects that I would work with my friends and neighbors who are also county councilors. So what does my experience bring to my candidacy? Well, quite simple. It's the knowing who, the what, the where, the when, why, and how things work now, and how we can work to improve them in the future. Thank you.
Terrific, thank you. So our next question deals with the topic of accessibility. The question is, what is your approach to addressing the provincial accessibility legislation? As a public sector body, the municipality has a legal obligation to prevent and remove accessibility barriers, lest risk significant financial penalties. What do you think are some of the key accessibility barriers in town, and how would you prevent or remove them? And we'll turn it over to Sean first.
The province does have an accessibility plan. It's an act of legislation. The town also has an accessibility plan that was established with the Citizens Committee way back in, I think as early as 2016, 2017. We were one of the first communities to have a joint committee with citizens' input on it. The library board, which I am part of as well, also has an accessibility plan. So Antigonish is well poised with the 3 levels, as well as StFX has one. In fact, if you go to the town's website, you will see our accessibility plan. And we also have a link that is available in larger text. And also we have an audio file so people with visual impairment can hear the accessibility. The big thing and the important thing with accessibility is to remove barriers. People with mobility issues, accessibility issues, have trouble navigating around our sidewalks and our streets. In fact, in front of our library, if you look at accessible parking, With the new vans that come out on the side, there's no place for them, and our sidewalk is on a curb. Not safe. So we had to institute a place on Main Street so the vans with the side lifts can unload the people. Buildings need wider doors, automatic doors, ramps, and elevators. The town has a plan when you build a new development. We encourage people to put accessible units on the ground floor. I'd like to take that one step up, because sometimes people don't like having ground floor apartments, they like to be one floor up. So if we can work with developers to bring an elevator up to the next level, it would provide more of a level of safety for people who are mobility challenged as well. Some of the apartments that we have that are labeled as accessible parking, you really have to wonder if the parking space is close to their door. Can we make allowances for that with developers? Remember, the town's job is not to hurt developers, but to make suggestions so that the developers can build what people really need. As StFX students, is there any with mobility issues? And does X provide accessible housing to students with disabilities? If so, think how many more students we could bring to StFX. We could be a leader in mobility issues here. Thank you.
All right, thank you, and we'll turn it over to Emily.
This is a very important subject, obviously. I know I just took a trip with my parents, and my mom has some newer mobility issues that she needs walking poles, and when we were in Europe, it's a real challenge everywhere you go. So thankfully, we are further ahead than a lot of other places, and as Sean mentioned, Antigonish is the first town in Nova Scotia to have an accessibility committee here. And so I think the big thing is that everything that's looked at by the town is with an accessibility lens. And through this campaign, I've been meeting with the people who have the needs, going to CACL, where all of the participants at CACL, a lot of them have accessibility needs, and L'Arche. My neighbor Mary, who's in a wheelchair on Acadia Street, there's no sidewalk in front of her house. She can't find a rental that's accessible as well, right? So there's lots of people here that we can learn from, and I know that on StFX campus, Jeff Murray and Rita Lynn Murray were integral in looking at all the buildings here on campus with an accessibility lens. Thankfully, there are a lot of new buildings on StFX campus, so accessibility is looked at with that, but a lot of the buildings that we have downtown are older buildings, so it is hard to meet the accessibility goals by 2030. But anything that's new, any sidewalks, crosswalks, anything like that, or accessibility, as Mary was explaining to me, you know, it's not just about roads and sidewalks. Are resources accessible to people? Is it easy for people to use our website and find out what they can use in our town? So I think that moving forward with the CAO and our new council and myself, if I was to be elected, everything would be looked at with an accessibility lens so that we can continue to work towards the goal of having an accessible community.
Thank you. All right, so our third question deals with the topic of student engagement. If elected as mayor, how do you plan to integrate students into the town of Antigonish? And how will you and the council support students? And we'll turn it over to Emily to start.
Great. I hear a lot of students say that they feel very othered by locals. And I hear locals say things about students that, you know, they're not part of our community, you know, but I really do not believe that. I think that students are a huge part of our community. They're an important part of our community. So moving forward, if I was to be elected as mayor, I would appoint a counselor to be a student relations person that would deal with students. We have students that sit on the various committees in town right now, but this would be solely to have students from your voice to learn from you about ways that you want to be integrated in with our town, so that it's not us telling you, but you telling us. I think that as residents in town, when you have students move in beside you, we all have to be good neighbors. So if you had a new family move in beside you, you would very likely invite them over for dinner or bring them some muffins or something. Do the same thing for your students. Make them feel welcome. I do that. I have positive experiences with the students that live around me. I had positive experiences in Halifax. And so I think by being more welcoming as a town, as a rule, as citizens, that we can build a better community and as well inform students of some of the rules and regulations. I know as a student, I had parties, I did things when I was here, I didn't really understand some of the rules, but if you go and treat each other with respect, we can have good integration. I've been talking with other mayors from towns that are university towns, and they have some awesome ideas. Acadia University, when Frosh arrived, they closed down their main street from 3 until 6, and they invite students to come. All the businesses are open. It's a very welcoming thing. People love it. Students love it. The students spend money at stores. Instead of spending money on Amazon, they learn that the $5 to $1 has a lot of the things that they might need, and that supports our local businesses as well. And I know that landlords are a big thing with students, and so maybe we can start a Rate Your Landlord website. I know there's ones that is the opposite where people post about bad students. So I think that that's a way for accountability on behalf of our community. And I want to find ways to celebrate our students. They're amazing. If you get to work with students, it's really a gift. Like my friend Irene Lafort, she just died. She was in her 90s, and she would be like, just come have lunch with me. I want to be around young people. Young people are just so good for your soul. And I think that that's true with our students. They add a lot, and we need to learn how to be good to each other.
Thank you. We'll turn it over to Sean.
Thank you. It is true, students bring an energy to this town. After the summer, we're kind of low, and all of a sudden the students hit us like, wow, the energy around these streets and intersection. And this year I was so happy that the student council was so supportive of the Antigonish affordable housing. Usually they do Shine-a-Rama, but I went over and offered water to these gentlemen and ladies that were present and collecting money. And I believe you raised over $7,000 for affordable housing? Pardon me? $27,000. Give a hand there, folks. Anyway, some of the things we can do, if you have a student rental next to you, I encourage you to go over, say hi to them. Sitting on council, you get different perspectives. There was one time we were on council where one neighbor came in and did a complaint about the house. We talked to the students in that house, and they said, well, the next door neighbor, she was bringing us over cookies. So you get a variety of complaints and things. Students are a large part of our community. Students, we have good neighbors. I've seen students, especially last winter when we had all that snow, they were out helping the neighbors, the old neighbors, and so, hands off to the students. But what I'd like to talk about, when I was going door to door, I banged on Dr., I hope I get her name right, Mahasta Kupar. Is that her name? She works in the environmental climate change? Health department, okay. So when she had asked me what we were going to do with compost, and I kind of told her what the town does. We collect it and ship it to Guysborough, where they process it. And she said, no, I'd like to do something a little different. I'd like to have a pilot project with the town of Antigonish where we could take those compost materials and look at reforming them and using it and making a viable business plan. And I said, wow, that sounds interesting. What do you need us to do? So she would like to do a study on this. So this is a perfect opportunity where students will be learning in the classroom. She could provide service learning, and we could work together in a partnership to see if this project of hers has legs. So this is where students, you have the knowledge and the ability, and you can really help the town out. So I encourage neighbors and friends to go over, shake hands with students, introduce yourself, bring them cookies, and then perhaps we'll get along better. And if there's any trouble, students are always there to help us, as we are there to help you. Thank you very much.
Terrific, thank you. Our fourth question deals with the topic of medical professional retention. So, governmental issue that rests predominantly with the province, what local strategies will you explore to ensure that we can recruit and retain medical professionals in Antigonish? We'll turn it over to Sean.
Recruitment of medical professionals is a very important concern. We have a regional hospital in Antigonish, and we need to recruit and retrain highly qualified and experienced doctors to our area to continue to deliver top-notch medical services. What are some of the issues that face these newcomers to our town? Well, housing. Well, how do you support housing? Well, you support housing by supporting the developers to ensure you have adequate water and sewer. That last one, if you were recruiting in the last month or so, might be difficult to get past to the hospital without going through that smell. But we're working on that, and we will continue to work on that. We need to provide them with the amenities, and that we encourage them so they can take up residency in Antigonish. We provide recreation, arts, entertainment, sports, and cultural events to help attract them here. One thing I did hear as I was going door to door was the possibility of a new rec center. Has anyone else heard that? Of course. Town and county councils had turned down the request to fund a study, but I believe this might be worth investigating. We have smart people in our community. We can certainly meet to analyze what it is we need for a rec center. What will bring people and keep them in this community? Is it, we heard everything from community pool to a gymnastic club to a youth center, but these are all things that can be hammered out with our town population so that we can identify. I have adult children now, so I'm kind of beyond what the young children of today require and need. One big problem that I do hear from the health professionals is the availability of daycare. It's not the town's job to provide daycare. In fact, as a licensed inspector with the province of Nova Scotia, I inspect group homes, large homes that Emily had talked about earlier. There's also inspectors that go around to inspect daycares. So in order for us to have more daycare facilities, we need operators, licensed operators to run these. So why not put a daycare facility into this new rec center? It would serve two purposes. It will bring an income source in to help support the rec center, and it will provide much necessary daycare spaces for these newcomers. Thank you.
All right, and we'll turn it over to Emily.
So recruiting medical professionals, like we've actually been very successful at it. The town funds a third of a position for a community navigator who helps doctors settle once they're here. But the number actually really surprises me. Very soon there's going to be over 90 doctors working at our hospital. I found that number really surprising and amazing at the same time. But I've been talking with doctors that work at the hospital, and the big thing that they say is that recruitment is one thing, retention is the other. And retention doesn't happen within the walls of the hospital. It's not because they're, not a good doctor or whatnot. It's that, what does life look like here outside of the hospital? So the big thing, as Sean mentioned, is affordable housing. A lot of doctors come out of school with huge amount of debt, so there's like a misconception that they can buy anything, but it's not just doctors, it's nurses and lab techs and anybody that the hospital needs administration. So if you don't have affordable housing or housing available within the area of the hospital, it's really hard. Or if you have daycare, if you have small children, maybe it means that your partner can't work. Someone was telling me about one doctor, he's a surgeon that got hired here, can't find daycare, and they drive to New Glasgow to drop their kid off at a daycare, and he goes to a Starbucks and does some of his follow-up calls from there. So it's not so much just about being a doctor, it's what does your life look like outside of that. And because our town is so diverse now, going door to door, this idea of come from a ways, well, half of our town is come from a ways now. So we need to stop with that attitude around that. If you don't have a mother or an aunt or a sister here to help you, it's really hard. So we as a community need to help solve these problems. So the Antigonish Affordable Housing is going to be opening a new area of development by the hospital that is going to include a daycare that will have hours that work for shift workers. So opening early and staying open late. So that's a big thing in regards to that. And recreation is the other thing that the people I've talked to have said is a big thing here, and that newcomers don't know where to go to do things. So we as a community, we don't have the casket anymore. You need to open up your homes and become really good neighbors to people, because that's how we're going to retain people, is because they want to stay here, because they love life here, that they're able to live and have good work-life balance.
Thank you. So our next question deals with the topic of town-county relations. Now that amalgamation is not moving forward, how do you envision the relationship between the county and the town? And we'll start with Emily.
Well, I think in this election, it's an awesome opportunity to have a lot of new people that are going to be on both councils, in town and in county. Mayor Boucher, Warden Owen McCarron are not running again, nor is a lot of people on the county council or the town council. So we have the opportunity to establish new and fresh relationships that aren't, water under the bridge and have histories of coming in with assumptions of each other. So it is absolutely integral that we work with each other. There's no way around it. Whether we're separate by a jurisdiction or not, we're all one community. People from the county use the town every day. My parents live in the county. I go out to the county every day. I go to the beaches all summer long, all year long, walking on the beaches. So I think that the way that we're going to work together is just by a fresh start with new perspectives and open minds, and keeping in mind that we're here for the better of our community, not because of things that have happened in the past. We want to look at the future and see what we can do to make everybody's life here as good as possible.
We'll turn it over to Sean.
As I mentioned before, the town and county have collaborated on several important projects, such as the library, we own the arena, and we own the R.K. McDonald Nursing Home. So working collaboratively with the county is not a new concept. Together, we have successfully attracted and retained healthcare professionals through initiatives such as the doctor recruitment program that Emily had referred to earlier, and bringing in new nurses from abroad. We have also partnered with organizations such as the Art House, Antigonish, StFX, and supported vital programs like affordable housing and minor sports and recreation. Where can we improve? Well, we can improve by setting aside personal differences and egos to focus solely on our responsibility to serve the people and safeguard democracy. It is essential that we enhance our communication with the public and actively listen to all their concerns. Going forward, I already mentioned that I would like to look at the possibility of a water commission. People always talk about the fighting between town and county, but I never saw it that way when I was on council. When you're elected as councillor for the town, you do your best for the town. Likewise, my county counterparts would try to do the same. So you're always fighting for the same turf. But the problem is there's two sets of rules. There's one set of rules for towns, and there's a different set of rules for municipalities. So one way we can avoid that is to relook at all the old contracts. For instance, 21% of the county, our water source is depleting. We need another water source. We're going in droughts. But did you know that county residents consume 21% more water than town residents? It's the town system, but we wholesale it to them, and they retail it back to the county residents. There's metering chambers that will impact the fire protection, because if there's a fire on the fringe, you better hope the water utility people get there to bypass that chamber, or else by the time the firemen hook up, there's very little water pressure. So that can be problematic. What I'd like to see created is a water commission. Join the fringe to the town water. It's an easy solution. It's a not-for-profit, but it would benefit our whole community. These are the type of forward-thinking ideas that I would like to bring as mayor of the town and working in collaboration with the county. Thank you.
Thank you. So our next question deals with bylaws. If elected, how will you ensure that all bylaws will be enforced in Antigonish? And we'll turn it over to Sean to start.
Thank you. You'll see us scrolling papers and checking notes because they gave us topics, but they wouldn't give us questions. So the topic was bylaw enforcement. So I'm going to be way off on this one. I try to guess what it is. The town gets its power through the Municipal Government Act. In that Municipal Government Act, it talks about the roles of mayor, it talks about the roles of council, it talks about the roles of the CAO and how they all work together. The province makes laws. The town cannot make laws. We make bylaws. And that power is given to us through the Municipal Government Act. So presently, if you look at our website, the town has created some bylaws. Some of them good, some of them can be, you think to be quite simple, but some can be very, very time consuming, take months and sometimes years to create. We have some simple ones like the dog control. We all know if there's a dog problem, you can phone the town bylaw officer and of course they can come and help you with the dog. But there's other things like minimum standards, sewer charges, connections, subdivisions. Our land use bylaw is huge. It's a big document, and under Mayor Boucher, she spearheaded the brand new land use bylaw and the Municipal Planning Act, MPS. Those two documents took years to create, but they are the blueprint for all developers and to ensure that the town has suitable housing, that neighbors are not adversely affected, that there's ample parking, and parking is an issue. You'll see it this winter when tickets get issued as parking is on the street. It becomes problematic. So we try to make our town safe by creating bylaws. Bylaws by themselves are effective, but you need the enforcement part. And we have 2 bylaw enforcement officers in the town to help us with that. We also work in partnership with StFX. StFX issues parking tickets. Anyone get any lately? Those are town parking tickets because StFX doesn't have the authority because they're under the umbrella of the town. So we end up doing the enforcement part for StFX for the money. But it's a good relationship. So working with enforcement is only half of the problem. Your bylaw is the other half. But the main part is working collaboratively with the residents to ensure that we have a safe community, safe sidewalks, safe buildings, and that housing we have building inspectors to ensure that residents are not placed at risk. Thank you.
All right, we'll turn it over to Emily.
Okay, so I think the biggest thing with bylaws is education. So how do you get educated? It's through communication. So when it comes to students, there are a lot of bylaws that would involve students. And I think that through the mentioned council member that would work with students to help share information using social media, educating our students on what some of our bylaws are because they likely don't know about them. Us as citizens probably don't know a lot of it. And so I know that 2 years ago, the town of Antigonish moved to electronic ticketing, which has enabled our bylaw officers to have a lot more time to do self-initiated bylaw enforcement, meaning they're driving around seeing things and approaching people and dealing with them on that way. So I think that we, as a council, as mayor, work with the CAO and the bylaw officers in our town who are the people that are doing the work to help them be able to do the job as best they can and to help educate students and new people who live here about our local bylaws and how we can all abide by them and be able to be entitled to live in the comforts of our properties.
Thank you. All right, our next question deals with infrastructure. What do you think are the primary concerns regarding infrastructure in the town, and how do you plan to improve infrastructure if elected as mayor? And we'll start with Emily.
Well, okay, not to state the obvious, but our town stinks. Last night, my friend was here from Calgary. She was staying at the Maritime Inn, and she was like, what the heck is the stink in the air here? And I was like, it's our sewage system. Our sewage system has a big problem, and it has been a problem that's been developing for a long time. While other people have been on council, these problems have been developing. While pavement has been having problems, that's another big thing. Our streets, our sidewalks, those are the big things that people talk about. So these things have been building up over the years. These aren't things that just happened overnight, but it's really critical right now. I have a friend who lives down beside the sewage treatment plant, and she's newly pregnant, and she has Glade plug-ins, and she's wearing a mask at night. Like, people are, I feel sorry for the person that's building the property by Webb's right now. How could you possibly rent something out with that condition? People are really like at the door. It's absolutely the number one thing that we're hearing. And it's a really big issue that needs to be dealt with right away. I know that there are things that are in place right now that are sort of the short-term fixes. And then there as well is the investments that we've received, and the town is investing and the county's investing in the short, not too far off future that will help with the system in terms of not having solid waste go in and affect the grinder. We're dealing with climate change. There was less rain, higher temperatures. So there's a lot of things that have happened that really required planning. These things were developing over the course of a long time. So in the future, it would be working with our town CAO and our new council to sit down and work out a 4-year plan about what we can do with our infrastructures as they are now. I had a call with Sean Fraser. He said that there's going to be an enormous amount of money federally released for municipal town and sewers that we're going to be able to take advantage of. So that is something to work towards. But as a council, sit down, work out a plan, and in the next 4 years of the term, just know that things will be better than they are now. But we have to be practical about it. A new sewage system could cost $50 million. Where would it go? It's not going to happen overnight, but we have things that we need to work on right now that are really a really big issue for our citizens, and that would be the first thing that we would deal with in terms of infrastructures.
Thank you. We'll turn it over to Sean.
Thank you very much. Well, we know the sewer plant stinks. I guess I do have to take a little bit of responsibility being on council the last 4 years. And we weren't really doing to prevent the smell that we've all experienced in the last 3 or 4 months. So to the town residents and county residents affected, I humbly apologize to you. In 2016, when I left council, I assumed everything was running fine. We did invest $5 million to try to fix this. As I mentioned earlier, $900,000 from the county, 1.8 from the town, and the rest from the other levels of government. But is that $5 million Band-Aid, is that going to be enough? Is that going to keep the sewer plant viable? Look at the growth on the outside of the town. We have to sustain that growth. Growth is wonderful. Growth is good. Whether it's in our town or outside of our town, we both benefit from it. I would like to conduct a study, not a 4-year plan, a study right away with an outside consultant to see what's the longevity of that 50-year-old plant. Can we get new technologies? And there are new technologies out there. There's mechanical plants that are housed, that are contained. And you want to put that outflow into a higher volume of river. So those things will take money. And I did hear the $50 to $75 million price tag. from an engineer friend of mine who I went to StFX with, who now does that, and he's retired in Victoria, BC. So that was his estimate. We can have pumping stations to get the sewer, but the number one problem we are going to be faced with is not the sewer plant. That can fix itself with this Band-Aid and with the long-term planning for a new plant, new location. You don't want a new sewer plant in the heart of your town. We need a new source of water. We are putting our residents at risk. There's no fire protection when we go into a drought. There's not enough water to sustain during a drought to put sprinkler systems. If we get hit with a forest fire, and we've seen those, climate change being what it is, forest fires can hit Antigonish. What are we going to do? That would be my number one priority, getting a new source of water. Getting back to the other infrastructure that affects your daily life are simple things like the paving, like the sidewalks, like the curb and gutter. I had some people who were pushing walkers were giving me heck because he said, you try pushing a walker on your sidewalks when there's unevenness. And we have bricks on Main Street that were they're very nice, but they're not conducive to mobility issues. So we really have to pay attention. Those big projects will get done, but the small projects like the sidewalk and the curb and gutter, those are just as important to everyday active living.
Thank you. All right, so our last question deals with the topic of diversity and inclusion. In recent years, there have been a number of marginalized groups in town, including newcomers, refugees, members of the LGBTQ+ community, and more, who've experienced significant prejudice and hate crimes. What will you do to ensure that marginalized communities feel safe and supported in Antigonish? And we'll turn it over to Sean to start.
So you're talking, could you repeat that again, marginalized?
Yeah, marginalized groups in town, including newcomers, refugees, members of the LGBTQ+ community, and more.
Okay. Diversity, equity, and inclusion will start with civility and kindness. Politics are not always friendly, but should be respectful. So I'm speaking from experience here. What we've witnessed in Facebook in the past few days is very disheartening. How can we have a caring community and expect diversity, equality, and inclusion when opponents are quick to post mean-spirited statements, sometimes without fact or subject knowledge? If you can't say it to their face, why do you feel compelled to hide behind a keyboard and put it out on social media? If a post is offensive to you and you wish to have it taken down, why would you share it? These are questions that we have. We must move forward into the future working with all our citizens in our community, no matter what their background is or how they appear. Canada and Antigonish in particular must work together with all our community members to enact real and demonstrable change. This means that we must understand and celebrate the differences that we bring to the table, recognizing our First Nations people and their government, bringing their government together with our government. In the town, county, and First Nations and Bucknatack, we did that. We had a very first meeting. Mayor Laurie Boucher, Owen McCarron, as warden, chaired the meeting as well. It was very good. Inclusion is more than just identity. It bridges the gaps between the haves and the have-nots. I've worked for the Department of Community Services for years, and that gap can be lessened by providing much-needed, accessible housing. Food security is also on my radar. It is important to see that town residents are very supportive of our food bank and kitchen pantries, but the fact that we need these show many residents are struggling. Getting back to First Nations, getting back to marginalized members and newcomers, we have to be supportive. We are a caring community, as my Emily puts in her thing, but I take it one step further. We have to support each other. Welcome the new people. There used to be welcome wagons when I was a kid. I remember it. I always thought it was funny. But it's very important. You have to reach out and respect and welcome newcomers. I'm very happy in Antigonish we have a large, we celebrate the Indian Independence Day, and there was over 400 newcomers to Antigonish celebrating, and we had a flag raising in Chisholm Park. These are things that we can work in conjunction with these marginalized communities to make them feel welcome. Thank you.
And we'll turn it over to Emily.
All right, I think what Councillor Cameron is talking about is there was a post made about me that was very hateful and distasteful, and somebody stood up for it. And I feel proud of that, actually, that they didn't want to share, to support people that are posting stuff online, because this is how a lot of people, bully and create toxic energy in our community. So I think that around this topic of diversity inclusion, it's leadership that has to happen, that, you have to inspire that in your council and as well in the town staff as well. But diversity inclusion builds community, right? So where everyone is able to thrive. And as a leader, I know that I am completely open to listening and learning from anybody. All I do all day long is talk to people. I just meet people wherever they are, learn from others. Through my work at the Coady Institute, we have our Indigenous school there, which is Circle of Abundance, which is amplifying Indigenous women's leadership. And that's all about building from places of abundance, not from what we don't have. And through my experience of working at the Coady with leaders and learning from elders, I have really, I'd say, unlearned a lot of the things that I perhaps was taught in school or different things along the way. So an article that I wrote about one of our elders and her advice around, truth and reconciliation, it goes into this topic in general, is that we're all here together in this community, and we're all relatives as it is. So I think that we need to get out from behind computers and get to know each other and invite people over, and as a town, open town hall up for a place that people can come to, not just to pay bills. I would also have immersive learning for our council and myself if I was mayor. To learn, we have all of these resources right here at StFX about a lot of topics in regards to diversity and inclusion. So I think that would be a really important start, is to educate our community representatives on all the different topics. What else can I say here? And with student integration, of course, I mentioned earlier having a student council that's involved with our town council. That's a great way for us to learn from students topics and be able to support diversity and inclusion in our community. And the more that we know, the better we are.
Thank you. So that concludes our formal questions. We'll now turn it over to closing remarks. So Emily, we'll lead off with you for closing remarks.
All right, well, I hope you guys all enjoyed that. You're leaving a little more informed. I thank you for coming. This has been a really amazing experience for me. You hear all these bad things online or on the news about people, and there's all these bad things happening in the world, but going door to door in Antigonish has really made me see how incredibly awesome people are who live here. And I've learned so much, and regardless of the outcome of the election, I'm better for this. And I think that through my campaign of caring for our community, I've inspired positivity, and I've shared a lot of awesome stories with people, and perhaps inspired others to get to know more about people who live here and celebrate things. And when you're going to vote, I think that besides the sewer smell, the number one thing that I've heard people say at their door is that they want change. They're like, thank God there's so many new people running. So that's super exciting. So when you think of that, having all of this choice in our candidates really causes people who live here to have to learn. There's been resources available. There's a guy started Antigonish, which he invited candidates to answer 12 really, some simple, some more complex questions, so you can get to know about candidates a bit more for council, because obviously they only had the one opportunity to talk publicly. I know my own Facebook page, Emily Chasson for Mayor of Antigonish, is really informative if you want to know more about me. But I think that, if people have had 20 years on council, I ask you to give me the opportunity to show that I can be a leader and I can make some really cool things happen in our town for seniors, for newcomers, for young people, for StFX students, for people who've lived here forever, for people who moved here 6 months ago. So really consider what you want the future to look like, not thinking about the past, but what do you want the future of this town to be? Do you want it to be a place that people want to stay and they want to celebrate and have cool events and have tourism and all those neat things that we can do together? So thank you.
Thank you, and we'll turn it over to Sean.
Thank you very much. Our returning officer was good to point out the qualifications needed. Just a word of caution to any students that out of province, this may happen. So as the returning officer said, you have the right to vote, but there may be consequences for it. And one of the things I ask you to check with your parents, because I don't know what province you may be from, but once you declare Antigonish, Nova Scotia your home, you may jeopardize your driver's license, your car registration, your health card, and possibly your student loans. So be cautious. I don't want anyone to get hurt. So check that out first. Thank you. Thank you again for allowing this debate. Thank you, StFX and Rebecca, and thank Emily for your participation. This building is amazing. This is the second time I've been in the Mulroney Center. I'm reminded of government as I walk throughout the whole building. It's the first time I was up at the 4th floor, so you guys are very special with your offices up there. Our job as elected officials are to represent the views of our citizens, to promote our town, and to be accountable to all. Clear communication is key. I plan to live stream all future council meetings, post agendas on our website, and then post all minutes within days of the meetings so that people can get up to date and informed. If an issue strikes you, you will be aware of it. I would like to have committees struck to meet regularly to report back to council on items such as the water, sewer, roads, sidewalks, recreation, and other items. Keeping citizens and staff informed of what is happening will avoid the confusion when items of interest are being discussed. To encourage public engagement, individuals and groups will have standing agenda items where questions can be asked directly to council and or staff at council meetings. My platform is quite simple. It focuses on the core services that the town must deliver. I and others are ready to address these issues so that the other services, such as housing, recreation, and the environment, can get the attention that they are due. Our aging infrastructure needs attention. I will ask council to support me in doing a comprehensive evaluation of all structures, both above and below the ground. We need to determine if the $5 million upgrade to our wastewater system is a Band-Aid that'll prolong it, or is it time to plan and have a new feasibility study to see if we need a new sewer treatment plant? We must start first with a new water system to ensure that we have a good supply of water, not just for consumption, but for fire protection, as I mentioned earlier. Watering gardens and providing businesses with supply demands to continue to operate. Supporting developments by providing these infrastructure items supports their investment in our community. We must be ready for any future growth that may appear. We are seeing new families choosing to relocate to Antigonish, and we must support them. I am all about accountability and will be clear in communicating with the public with any decision made by council. The citizens, the ones that I'm responsible to represent their views and help, they deserve this. Democracy is too precious to just ignore. That is why I fought so hard to ensure that the citizens of town and county had a voice in the decision to the proposed change in our governance. This legislation was pulled by the Premier and their government, and we are back to being in town. In fact, if I and other believers in democracy had not worked so hard to prevent this, we would not be here tonight, as there would not be a town that either one of us could run for mayor of. My opponent had supported this undemocratic proposal in both video and writing without the proper studies and no real facts as to the benefits and risk involved in the dissolution of our town. I listened to the people, and I will continue to listen. I ask you to consider me for the next mayor of the town of Antigonish. Vote for experienced leadership. Vote Sean Cameron for mayor. Thank you.
All right, I'll give you all credit. You were very patient with that clapping. So, great work. Thank you. We have a lot of thank yous to deliver today. The first person, though, that I would like to call upon to deliver some words of thanks from the Student Union, Francisco Chang. He is the president of the Students' Union, sorry.
Hi everyone, for those who don't know me, my name is Francisco Chang. I am a honors in economics student here at StFX, and I am also the president of the Student Union. I just wanted to conclude this by thanking everyone for being here and making this debate possible. Ex-Petro, IT Services, Marketing Department, who is doing the live stream at the back. Of course, the Mulroney Institute, our candidates, and the audience for sharing this evening with us. Having this space is important because even if all not students are able to vote, local government affects everyone living in here, including students. I am happy to see the turnout tonight because sharing our views and being part of the conversation is important. Yeah, thanks everyone.
Terrific. So, just a couple last notes here. For those of you who are interested in sharing tonight's debate, there will be a recording of this event that you can share. So make sure that you check that out on the Student Union page as well as the Mulroney Institute website. We'll make sure that happens. We also have a number of people to thank when it came to making tonight happen. Of course, we want to thank both of our candidates here. This would not have happened without your involvement. So we really appreciate you taking the time to, as we said, commit to the democratic process here and respectfully engage with one another in tonight's debate. We also want to thank the Student Union for reaching out to partner on this and to continue to engage students in the process, especially with all of your work behind the scenes and getting students mobilized to vote. We really, really appreciate that. We also want to thank Dr. Anna Zuschlag, who is the guru of all things at the Mulroney Institute. She is the reason that this comes to life and brings all of our events into fruition. She makes them very professional, and everything runs through Anna. So thank you, Anna. I also want to extend a thanks to Dr. Linda Hartling-Stalker, our new director, because she had a terrific vision for this from the very beginning. Her commitment to the community and collaborating with partners both across the university and beyond are a really exciting direction for us. So again, we're really looking forward to seeing all of the work that she's doing and continuing on at the Mulroney Institute. We also, of course, want to thank all of the folks at Conference Services, Ex-Patrol, and Jim in IT Services back there making it happen. So thank you again for everybody who's helping to make everything run smoothly. Marcy Baker in the Department of Political Science, who helped coordinate everything from posters to emails and getting those all around town. And as a last note, please go and vote. October 19th, you are able to participate in advance polls as well, which begin on the 12th. Please take some time to vote. There are many ways to do this. You can vote online, you can vote in person, you can vote in advance polls. And again, if you have more questions about how to get registered, how to make that happen, please go and see Alan outside. He's on the first floor here, so if you go down these stairs and out this door, you will be able to find him at a table. But again, we really want to see municipal turnout here go up in this election, and so I really encourage you to get out and vote and make sure that everyone's voice is heard. But thank you for joining us tonight. One last round of applause for our candidates. All right, thank you.